One of them grew up in a Finnish village with more pigs than people. The other was running the numbers before he could legally drink. One wanted to digitize his brain, the other mine asteroids. Together they talked to city council into a mansion, lost it, found a hotel, outgrew it, and then negotiated a 12,000 square meter palace in central Helsinki for a fraction of what anyone else would have paid. Their first cohort is already valued at over 100 million euros. They don't take equity. They don't have classes. They love ice cream, ice swimming, and ice cold games with mafia. There are no rules, except that they provide 6 essentials for human greatness: a roof, 34-inch monitors, LED lights, food, caffeine, and nicotine, and a sauna, because this is Finland. The dead serious, deeply unserious Jobs and Wozniak of teenage prodigies. Ernesti Sario Nantte Kivinen, it's a pleasure to be with you here in Helsinki. Welcome to Unreasonable.
Thank you. We don't provide nicotine.
So I've been told that one of you sees into people's souls and that the other one can sell them their own idea back to them, making them think that they came up with it. I'll let you work out who's who. But before we get into freight, who are you guys? Where did you come from? What were you doing before you decided to drop out of uni and convince a Finnish city to give you a palace? Nantte.
I think actually I would start this, it will come evident later in the story why I'll say these things. I think I was in many senses a nobody, and I am still. There is no reason why we get to sit in this room, why anyone else couldn't be sitting in this room. I just think we were the ones that started doing it. Maybe some things led to other things, but I don't really think there is a defining point where it became clear that I would be sitting in this room. Gotten lucky many times, done more mistakes than I think many people have done, learned something from all of those, and just been extremely lucky to be around amazing people.
Ernesti, what about you?
You can give the investor intro that I give to all the investors I meet. Yes, grew up in Finland in a small village with more pigs than people per capita in Finland. Was interested in space, like these meta questions of like where does the universe end, etc. So wanted to be a physicist, but always got into trouble in school. Parents said that I was kind of like a contrarian, so hated rules and norms. So looking back, I think that took me on the more entrepreneurial journey. So then as a teenager, I tried, dropshipping and digital marketing, social media, all these bullshit things. Didn't make any money, fortunately, out of those. In high school, just went fully into music. So I was a SoundCloud rapper actually for 3 years. But was just my life was going down. At 18, I hit the famous rock bottom, and then I just did a U-turn. Started studying on my own, mainly like maths and physics. Did well in my exams, got into Aalto University to study computer science. Went there to meet smart and ambitious people. Met smart people, not ambitious people. Absolutely hated the academic environment. For that reason, then ended up in the startup ecosystem, through that to Silicon Valley, and got inspired, and the rest is kind of like history.
So I think maybe keeping with you, that's a really nice way to lead into what the hell we're doing in a palace, right? Your team has described Freight to me separately as a hacker hotel, the new kind of institution for technical ambition, and a place to help people find their personal religion. What's going on? What is Freight to you guys?
We're building a new institution. That kind of like X for Y explanation is that it's Hogwarts for hyper-ambitious young people who want to change the world. But it's more about figuring out this new institution for the post-AGI world, where there's still going to be young, ambitious people who want to change the world. Like, what will be the alternative for universities or different kinds of programs that they actually want to go to? And we're trying to figure out that and be the number one in that.
And Nantte, you come across someone, and knowing, speaking with your team, who's very ops heavy, who really makes a lot of calculations before making decisions. When this guy comes and pitches you the idea, what's going on in your mind? How do you make it up on this? And then, what made you say yes?
I think actually this is really characteristic of me. I have extremely slow intuition. It takes a while for me to come to conclusions. And actually, when Ernesti originally came to talk about the idea to me, I said, like, this makes absolutely no sense. Like, we shouldn't do this. And then Ernesti, as any good founder, just like persistently kept working on it. I did agree. So still talking to the earlier point of what is this? Like, if you go today to Silicon Valley or actually anywhere in the world, you do have people working on ambitious things. There is like highly ambitious people, but there really isn't a place where, like, when you're a young child, you have this optimism about the future. You play with Legos, you dream of visiting the stars, and then you grow up, and then people start telling you about a thing called reality and what you can't do, and don't be so naive. But there really isn't a place in the world where you truly get to feel this definite optimism that we can change the future and we do get to visit the stars. And I'll at least die trying if I don't get to visit them. But yeah, then to your question of like what made me say yes in the end is, then I guess you spend enough time thinking about what actually matters to you in life. And then you realize that, no, okay, it is probably not money, it's probably not happiness in the short term, it's like none of these superficial things, it's actually getting to visit those stars. And then you start questioning yourself, like, no, okay, are my actions aligned with that bigger goal? And I think there you'll find then true meaning and inspiration in life, and then you really can work on these crazy ideas. So in the end, I think a direction and a vision is like only works so far as the people who then join that mission and vision share that internally, that it actually matters to them. And you, like Ernesti has just been able to find a kindle of a direction that ignites people to actually change the world and chase their biggest dreams. And then now this place where we are sitting is kind of symbol and a incarnation of all.
So that's like, I suppose that's the bottom up, the motivation that you guys have. There's a point I've been thinking about a lot recently where someone said to me recently that, bear with me on this, at the end of the 15th century, the printing press had been invented in like 1440, right? Maybe 1446, spreads across Europe like wildfire. And what you have is you have the crashing down of the hegemony that the church has over information. So previously they owned all the books, they owned all the knowledge, they were the only people who could read and write. And then by 1509, you have Martin Luther who goes, you know what, like I'm a monk, but people can read this now. I can spread stuff in the vernacular. For me, it feels like we may well be going through another one of those moments, right? Like the late 2010s into the 2020s was kind of this moment. And I think large models are the cherry on top of a broader trend that's been happening, not just in anyone with a bit of ambition and an idea and some Claude credits can kind of build most things now, right? Like the limit is, yeah, tokens, but more just keeping on clicking, keeping on thinking, keeping on persevering. And then you also have this macro trend of maybe less so in the Nordics, but definitely in Western Europe and the US, if you take on this crazy university debt, by the time you've finished your degree, the skills you've learned in your degree are probably redundant anyway. Like jobs don't, like grad market doesn't look anything now like it did. I mean, even when I graduated 10 years ago. Do you think that you guys fit into that trend as well? Do you think that freight in some way demonstrates a new model for higher education, I suppose?
Yeah, I think one good personal example is so I dropped out on the second year of my studies. I was a bit scared, like, let's see how it goes. Now I'm extremely happy about that because for me, education was about learning agency, and agency, I believe, will be one of the most important skills in the future, also adaptability. And that's basically what we teach in Freight and that's the core of Freight, just doing these impossible things. I think it's the perfect reason or the answer to the why now question. We need to run really fast because somebody else will figure it out as well soon. And, I shouldn't even say that out loud. But we believe that there's going to be a huge wave of more ambitious people who want to work on crazy ideas. Because it's starting to be more safer to work on those crazy ideas. So you at least have something to work on for the next 20 to 30 years. If you're building the B2B SaaS company, it's like 6 months goes by and you're just a kid.
Yeah, your whole business model doesn't exist anymore. Well, that leads really nicely into the way that you funded this, right? One of your team again said, ask for money and you'll get advice, ask for advice, you'll get money. So you funded this, you went to a bunch of local funds, you got public money involved. You, as you say, are 2 university dropouts with no track record at this point. You're in a relatively small city, in a relatively small market, in a relatively small country. Tell us about walking into those rooms. Tell us about how your headspace works there, how you started laddering up that ambition.
Yeah. So I did some of the first sales meetings, and now Nantte has been taking care more of them later on. He can maybe talk about the fundraising meetings we are doing now, but at the beginning, I guess the advice point is like 50% of it. Ask for advice, ask for money, get advice, and vice versa. Then the other thing, I guess, is just like conviction. If you can go into the room, Freight didn't make any sense in the beginning. It's like this young guy coming in and just saying like some stupid shit, and most people just think like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But if you can have that conviction that you look people in the eyes and they get a feeling that maybe this won't work out, maybe they haven't figured out everything, but this person has such high conviction that they will make something happen, right? That's really important. And then the third one is just good communication skills, that you can get to the point. Nantte is like really good at negotiation and understanding what do people want, and you need to think about those things as well. But to me, it's like conviction is number one when selling a stupid moonshot idea.
And how do you guys go from crazy vision to then speaking that vision into reality and breaking that down into like actions in the day-to-day?
I think that also, I would love to give a more concrete and easier answer, but I do really, or I guess asking that question, it's many people, if somebody then listens to, like is listening to this, like, oh yes, how do they actually do that? But that is also just a limiting factor to explaining to yourself why you couldn't have that belief. Like if you are able to find that belief, that like predates everything. Because the thing is that now that we are sitting here, and I can tell you that this will be the thing, and you'll get that feeling when you look me into the eyes. Like I really do believe it, and you'll believe it too, and you'll feel it. And then when you have that feeling, it's actually your brain that will explain to you why does it make sense when I say that we will buy those ducks from the yard. And you're like, rationally it wouldn't make any sense. But because you feel that it's actually going to happen, you will come up with the explanation, and I don't have to explain it to you guys why it's possible. And I think this is what happens in most of these meetings. Then still one thing I'll add on to the list is if you are just able to be ambitious enough, there will come a point, like if you actually, venture capital talks a lot about the power law, and also Taleb has talked a lot about like distributions. And if you are ambitious enough, like the chances of success stay roughly the same. Like it's, let's say 10% when you're trying to do something new and novel. And that won't change. Like no matter how good your explanation is, like it won't change by even one order of magnitude, maybe like a few percentages. But what can change is like what is the outcome if you succeed. And if you are able to draw that far, like, far ahead, like enough far on the right, on the distribution, that the return is so huge. And then you kind of make people have to take that bet, because like, fuck, like it will 90% sure fail, but if it fucking succeeds, it will be so huge that we just have to do it. You can't miss out on it.
But a lot of ambition is also understanding what type of outcomes you're capable of achieving, and then understanding how big can you actually dream. And then have you guys increased the ambition as time goes with Freight? And
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely. So if we had this conversation with Nantte and the team, like 1 year ago, we would be just, I don't know how we would react to hear like where we will be in a year. You know, you learn a lot from that when things start happening, and the ambition level starts becoming bigger and bigger. Absolutely. I still wanted to answer to the previous question, just like one practical thing is also just thinking from first principles. We often just think like working backwards from the goal. Like the goal can be super grandiose, insane, moonshot idea, but in the end you need to be able to think about the roadmap, like what milestones do you need to hit, what's something that you can do today, what's the most important thing you can do today to actually move towards that goal. You think like what's the biggest challenge right now, and then you just attack that thing.
And okay, yeah, now on that one, then to the point of how do you go to these fundraisings, I think the point of like having something concrete to go to, like nowadays the numbers we think of are obviously like way different from the first sales meetings, but then even then it was like, okay, we need this amount of money, and we were basically trying to prove that you couldn't get the world's best talent to Finland. Like the hypothesis, like in a sense, like okay, you cannot get the best people globally to travel to Finland and work on their craziest ideas here.
So there's a laddering up here, and now you guys have done it. I suppose one of the things that really comes out when you speak to people around freight is the fact that you guys are doing something quite absurd at the same time that they all are. So there's a kind of clarity of, or alignment of purpose and a respect that you get from the people in the cohort. Two questions that I think are very closely related. Looking back at a year ago and 2 years ago, could you now help yourselves, if you went back, hack that 2 years of ambition jumping, like speed running that ambition, those ambition leaps? Do you think that's possible, or do you think you have to go through it? And then maybe one for you specifically, Ernesti, because I know it's something that you work with a lot with the cohorts. How do you help other people do that reframing agency, reframing ambition? Because I suppose one of the things is if you believe that the first question is true and you can skip levels, then you want some people to come in and just go, guys, don't waste your time on this. Just leap to the bigger way of thinking about it.
I can first give 2 quick answers. So to the first question, yes, you can. I think the fastest way to do that is just to meet successful people who have done it and realize that they're not gods, like they're just normal people. I think for us, that's been one of the things that we've learned the most from, that we can just do anything. Because the more you meet these people, the more you realize that, yeah, actually anything is possible. They're just normal people. There's no like smart adults in the room. That's like one of the realizations that we've had. And then, so that's one, just like getting those people here, the more we can. And to the second question, so I think a lot of it comes from authentic conversations. What we really try to understand and help people with is like, what do you truly want out of life? And that's a hard question. Like not many people have answers to that. We give these prescriptions to people to like, okay, it seems like you don't know what you want out of life, but you want to go all in on something. Lock yourself into a room for 12 hours and just like pen and paper, no screens, answer simple questions like, what do I want? What makes me happy, etc. That's something that we do a lot. Just honest, authentic conversations with people, like what do you want? And then when it clicks for people, like, okay, this is my purpose in life, then you, as I said previously, like then you work backwards from the goal, like how can you actually get there? And then we just help people. It's a lot of like conversations.
And then how do you guys go about, because you're bringing people from all over the world here, from completely different backgrounds and ways of thinking, how do you go about putting them together and building the community? Is this something that you guys push, or is it something that happens naturally? And what's the mindset behind it?
And maybe baked into that, just because for the benefit of someone listening who might not actually know exactly what Freight is, can you tell us a little bit about what the cohorts are, how many people in them, or at least just like a broad structure, the kind of mad stuff people are working on? Just give it a bit of color.
Yeah, 2 cohorts per year. They're 3 months long. So we pay for everything, flights, accommodation, food, etc. Around 30 people per cohort. Some are teams, some are solo founders, some are building startups, some are doing research, some are just building side projects, but we believe that there's some potential to build something bigger there. They all live together, they work together, and there is a huge community aspect to it. Like people often ask me, like, what does it look like inside Freight? The answer is it just looks boring. Like people are working really hard. It's like they're in front of their screens all day, but there is still this community aspect of like going to the sauna together and talking about the meaning of life there, having lunches and dinners together and talking about super intelligence, all kinds of activities we do, retreats, stuff like that, board games, and so on. So the community aspect is pretty important, and especially going into the future, I believe communities will matter more and more. So that's something that we are leaning on.
And then how do you build community?
I think it actually comes quite naturally from all the people coming here to actually work on those things that really matter to them. And then it's like, yeah, obviously you could, like, maybe it would come more naturally or actually like if you think of a university, like people come from all around the world, and then all of them are there to do this thing together, to actually learn about something. Here it's the people come here and they are here actually to change the world, and then you actually do get this quite beautiful feeling of belonging, because it's not that often that people have found these kind of communities before where it's actually okay to be yourself and be as highly ambitious as you are. And I think this is one of the things we get there. I mean, it is like the people are the thing. Like, it's not about us, it's about the people that are in this building. And this is one of the things we get, like, obviously feel most proud of, and also get the, like, most positive feedback is, like, the people that we are able to bring together here. Like, this is the whole thing for us.
And I imagine it, because if the key value is the people, then selection is the number one kind of like criteria of success for Frege. How do you guys define who's a Frege maverick? And is it like always based on feeling and intuition, or do you have some like criteria that you repeat and over the interviews?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of iteration. Like, we're all the time, getting more data points and doing better pattern matching ourselves as well. I think one is just being intelligent, cognition. That's like a baseline. And then it's just like Mark Andreessen talks about it, like, all you need is to be intelligent and to be brave enough, right? Those are in the end things that we are looking for, but then combined with this like ambition to really change the world, have some sort of a crazy idea, something that you're obsessed about. And also something important to note is just like some call it moral ambition, some call it kindness, but like actually wanting to build a future that it looks hopeful and not dystopian, especially in these times. That's something we care about as well.
I would also tie it around, like, I think genius is harder to incubate. It's like, if you are like extremely smart, then you probably are like just like the amount of raw fluid intelligence you have. But then on the other side, like the courage. And I do think like some people just are more courageous. Usually maybe they're like less smart ones more so. It's easier, but I think there comes the ambition. Like, where does courage come from in the end? Like, why are you ready to charge to this battle? And it's because it matters to you, and this is like what you're ready to die for. And then finding people who have really been able to, I don't really, in a sense, it's like whatever floats your boat. Like, maybe you find it on a walk in the park, maybe you look at the market and then you see a pattern, maybe you like lock yourself into a room and then it comes to you. Like, I don't know, where do people find it? But like, when you find that ambition of like, okay, I really want to spend my life working on these things, then those people do usually actually end up changing the world and doing those things.
One of the really strong senses I got when I was talking to people before was the community angle, the sense of belonging, that almost that's more important than what people are doing. It's giving people a place where they can feel like they're part of something. One of your team described Frege to me as a home for outcasts, that a lot of the people who come through your cohorts haven't always fit in the environments that they run. I mean, you talked about it yourself, Ernesti, right? Like, not finding education really worked for you in a way that made that much sense. What I'd be really interested in is, I imagine a lot of those people arrive having always felt like outsiders, and then they suddenly get somewhere where they're not the people who want to talk about AGI and neural networks at lunch while everyone else is talking about football, these kind of things. What happens to people when they get to Frege? What do you see in people? Do you just let the magic happen? Do you guide? Do you kind of, support like around the edges? Or do you just kind of let people go through that process themselves? And what do you see?
We do guide people a bit, but I would say it's more about just, letting it happen. It does happen naturally when you just put like-minded outcasts into the same room. It just like naturally happens, especially because everybody in Freight is super technical. So they can talk about technical details, but also everybody is surprisingly philosophical. So that these conversations are also really interesting. So what has happened, at least so far, it's just like immediately when the cohort starts, it goes into these like deep conversations and so on. But obviously there are some things we do on the program side to just like embrace sharing ideas, sharing knowledge, interesting conversations, and so on. But I think this is one of the things where we would be better to ask the participants themselves, like, what does it feel like? Because I haven't had the experience myself, but at least we get a lot of good feedback from that is like extremely powerful.
And I'll still, like, to me this question is in a sense a hard one, because we almost actively try to do as little, like we really believe in like the best people don't really need help, like you'll just do it and figure it out yourself. And then I think you easily fall into this fallacy of like, let's say like you do want to bring value, and then it's easier in a sense to teach or bring more value to someone who has it like less figured out. And then it's like, do you want to spend your time helping these, or do you really want to be pushing the frontier? And that is something where I think Europe at large, or at least in Finland nowadays, the education system completely fails, is having this ambition to really push the few best ones to do something incredible.
It's funny you say that. I was talking to my partner Chris last night about this, of saying one of the most, like, we don't pretend that as venture investors we do much for our businesses, right? We're a commodity with wearing a t-shirt and trainers. But where one of the few places where I think venture investors can be really helpful is just like letting our founders go wild, but just saying, what about if you thought 10 times bigger? Just always big. And like, we were with one of our founders last night who's doing a mining company, and we were like, what if you just mined on the moon? And he was like, yeah, I think I could do that. And we're like, well, what if you could do it in 2 years? And he's like, well, can't do it in 2 years, but maybe we could do it in 4. And it's like that, just reframing. And I think that is a European malaise, frustratingly. I think it comes from coming from small markets, particularly. You have an age limit, which I think is kind of interesting, because a lot of the stuff you talk about, I think, could apply to anyone of any age, right? You can reframe your scope of ambition at 60 if you want. Yet you do, 16 to 28?
Around, yeah.
Why is that?
I think, first of all, something to understand is that we get a lot of like critique for this. But something to understand is that we are building Freight as a startup. So focus is extremely important. Focusing on the right things that actually make sense, especially in the beginning. And we've just seen that we can provide the most value for a bit younger people. And then, because it is a lot about breaking these illusions, and that's just like, those come from the way society programs you. So we just need to do a lot of deprogramming, like break those illusions. And the older you are, the more you have, the more you need deprogramming. It's just like, if you think about the focus, we can do way faster and better results with younger people, but it doesn't mean that, especially as we start scaling, that it couldn't be also like older people. And then when thinking about this Hogwarts idea, like if you watch Harry Potter, it's like young people in Hogwarts learning to do magic, and this is what happens here, but just for engineers and scientists. It's just like our focus that we've chosen.
And because the programming happens a lot within society, and that's the educational system. And if you guys are trying to rewire the system, how do you think the ideal educational system would look like for someone leaving high school today, or even, I don't know if you would do high school, but let's say post high school, if you would build the perfect Freight-led educational system for achieving as much as you can? Would everyone start their career as an entrepreneur or as a researcher?
No, I don't think so. Thinking how popular this opinion is, but I guess I don't really care. But I guess there is always a distribution, there is evolution. Like you get all kinds of, like, you have a normal distribution. Not everybody is like wired the same way. You have like some wetware you are born with. You can obviously, maybe your brain changes also quite a bit during your life. But then, like, so the point I'm coming to is that there will always be this distribution, and then, like, even if you look back, like when the people were, like humans were just on a savanna, it like wouldn't work if everybody were like going against the group and like really wanted to start a revolution and like had a super high conviction that we should go this way. Like it just works that you have
chaos.
Yes, exactly. But then you do need a certain amount of chaos, and I do think this is what, like, if you look back all the way actually like from the 70s or 60s, when we abandoned like a currency that was tied to gold and moved into this like fiat currency where you can actually predict the financial market. And I think this is the like slope we've been going down to, like, oh, let's try to optimize and predict better and better what will the financial results look like next year. And then you end up sacrificing the volatility that actually creates the meaningful things. Like if you look back to like when Elon was starting SpaceX, or Steve's were starting Apple, like nobody wanted to invest in those things. They made it like didn't make any sense. But then that's how the future gets built. So I think, like, when you ask, like, would it be the perfect place for everybody? No, I don't think so. I don't think it would work. But I do think the best people who actually want to work on the craziest ideas should get to have an environment where they get to pursue those ideas and have a community and have a like sense of belonging. There is no reason why every genius should be like alone for their whole life. Like that's not positive for the society. Like we should support these people and let them truly innovate and bring the future to us.
Yeah. One thing I want to add is, like, absolutely agree that everybody shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It's like just painful and just doesn't fit for everybody. But then there is this question of like, what's gonna happen in 5 to 10 years? Like what will happen to universities? I'm really scared for my friends who are studying computer science, studying full stack engineering, and have just spent like the last 5 years on that. That's really scary, like what will happen in that. So I think overall this aspect of teaching agency and adaptability and how to actually survive in a world where, I mean, we'll have tools in a way that anyone can just build anything, right? That's like the platform shift. Anybody can do almost anything when it comes to building things, especially software. So that is still a educational question for schools and universities to think about. Like,
yeah, I suppose that the question is whether some aspects of what you're building with Freight are translatable to a broader world.
Exactly.
So like, I was thinking about this on the way over, and we've lost community in a large way in most developed societies, right? And you are doing something that is taking even the abstraction of a university of like 20,000 students, 10,000 students down to 40, 50 per cohort. You're teaching agency, you're teaching autonomy, you're teaching belonging, you're giving people an environment that's safe to experiment in. And even I would argue, like one of the models I've been thinking about a lot is, do we end up unbundling the university again? And actually we end up with much smaller private or semi-private or public hubs where you have a safe learning environment, where you probably live in that environment. Like essentially what you guys are doing, you're just doing it for the 1% of the most ambitious people. It doesn't mean that you couldn't do that for learning how to be a plumber or a masseuse or like, I don't know, instead of having a massage, like a 2-year massage course, you have like a wellness center where you go and you just explore what you're interested in within that. You learn those skills and you come out of it with some kind of qualification that enables you to be more autonomous in that world. It's like, I do wonder whether you guys are in some way the canary in the coal mine for where higher education goes. But just like you talk about Elon being an outlier or the Steves being outliers, what all they were outliers in was seeing where the world was going before it did. And you are part of a broader trend of hacker houses, hacker hotels, residencies, these kind of things that's really popped up in kind of the last, since like 4 or 5 years, I would say, that they've really accelerated. Something tells me that that's the model that the rest of the world's going to look more like, if not exactly like, in a decade or 15 years.
yeah. Absolutely agree, and I think that's a lot of people have wanted to fix the educational system for decades, right? I think now is the time, like if somebody wants to figure out what does the future of university actually look like, now is the time to, like, you can raise $1 billion instantly with this like new idea and vision for that. And obviously we are also thinking a lot about these things, but we are focusing on that, like the hyper ambitious people. That's our focus, but I do think there's a lot to learn from the things we are doing.
Tell me about, I really want to go back to, because I think people will find it super interesting, the way you guys managed the step changes up and how you thought about things you could achieve. So you went mansion, hotel, and then tell us a little bit about, I mean, where are we? What is this? This is like 12,000 square meters, something absolutely insane. Tell us the story of scaling that up, and maybe through the lens of how you changed the way that you thought about it, because I think that's the most interesting bit.
So I got the first building, Nantte got this one. We both had our realizations of like how to manifest things into real life. I think at the beginning it was really simply just thinking about, like, had some sort of an idea what we want to do, and then I just put it into different categories. Like, we need a building, we need people, we need funding, etc. And then for the building, I thought that, okay, we're gonna have people coming from abroad. They probably need to sleep there, but they also need to work there. So mansions would be good because you have many rooms, and then these like large dining halls where people can work. And that was just like figuring out how can we get a mansion, talking to people, talking to the city of Espoo where we were located, and they actually got excited about the idea and helped us to get that. Then in the end, it didn't really work out for us because just too many rules and restrictions with this like historic building, which was the mansion. And then in the last like 1 to 2 weeks before the first pilot course started, we got the hotel. And Nantte can tell more about this building, but the core idea there is just like we realized manifestation, that manifestation just works. You have this idea. With this building, we were going by the building and just made a joke that this would be a great, awesome headquarters for freight. And that is manifestation. You have a crazy idea and you say it out loud. And now you have the ability to start thinking, how do we execute on this? Because before you can even like think about the idea, it's never going to happen. But that is the first step of manifestation. And then it's about like, do you actually have the ability to execute? And that's where, for example, with this building, Nantte came in and did some like pretty goated moves to make it happen.
Yeah, I do really think it starts from there, like just thinking that you can do it, and then I guess like having this really first principles mindset, like both in the like walking backwards from the goal, the vision. It was clear to us like, okay, we do see freight becoming a larger thing. So we were in this hotel in Espoo that was working super well for us, but then I guess we also got a bit bored. It would have been a bit too comfortable just to stay there. So then you have to figure out something to give you miss a few nights of sleep. But there's like really thinking like, okay, why couldn't it be possible? Like, what is actually stopping us from sitting in this building? And so this is the old Technical University of Helsinki. This was actually originally built by the Russians when Finland was under the like Russian occupancy. The Finnish would never build a building like this. This is meant for like an empire. And then yeah, I mean, also for us, like it's just when you do things at a global ambition, then you do want to think what symbolizes that.
Yeah, that feels like a really important part of this that we talked about earlier, that most people would go, oh, I probably need a space. Like, could I find a house? It's like you just punted the frame of reference out like 500 yards too far and then landed at somewhere more reasonable. So I'm interested, especially how that relates to like, what is manifesting to you guys? What does manifesting actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, it is this realization of kind of like, if you think about it, being NPCs and live players, realizing that you can be a live player in this world and just do things. Like, you know, in Silicon Valley, everybody talks about just doing things. And it's really hard to explain, but at least to me, it was, at some point it just clicked. Like, okay, you can there's no really anything stopping from. Obviously, like one thing is laws of physics. Like some things are just impossible.
Sure, you can't fly with no equipment.
I guess the thing about manifestation is what I've learned so far, and I'm not a spiritual guy.
I am.
Nante might be more than me, but it's like it comes down to belief. This is something that I've now learned in the past few months. It's like if you really believe something, that's kind of like the power that makes it possible to happen. People feel the belief. People get excited about it. It pushes you to actually go through it. Like what we've done so far is extremely painful, and as Nante said, like missing a lot of sleep. It is fun in a sense, but also like it is really hard. So, but if you have that belief that you can do something, you'll go through mountains, you go through walls.
I'll add on this like to the belief, and we talked already earlier about this, like the mission and the goal you are going for. And I think it really comes down to like, how deeply do you believe in that? Like, because if you have that belief, that predates everything. It's like then the resources and the building and the people and everything will follow. But like, if you believe in something that deeply that, okay, this has to exist, like we have to have a future. I really fucking want to visit those stars. And it's like, what's your, like, I would just feel miserable then if I went to sleep, like tapping myself on the back, like, oh yeah, you did your best today. I sent a few emails and tried to get the building. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, if you really believe in something, then you'll just do like everything to get to execute on that belief.
And relating that to the way you demonstrate agency to the cohorts, how do you believe that belief and action interact? Because there must be points also where you doubt the belief. Like you send a bunch of emails, you probably call a bunch of people and then you're like, well, it's weird, no one's replied to me. Like there's that dark moment, but then how do you believe that they flywheel into one another?
I have 2 points on this. I'll start first on the like execution and the ability to do that. I don't know with how many people this resonates, but to me it's really this understanding that I'm special in no way. Like you're nothing but what you repeatedly do. And then at that point, excellence is not an act, but it's actually an habit. It's a habit. And this is by Aristotle. And that's, I think, a beautiful mental model. Like if you believe that you can visit the stars, then like I do think you have to start executing on things pretty fucking well, because nobody else seems to be putting that much effort into us visiting the stars. There are some people. So this like, you have this feeling, like that's the positive side, like, oh, you really feel like you have to do these things. And then that's obviously like where you get all this like positive motivation. But then there is days when you really feel like shit, like it won't work out. And I think there, like, that can also come from, and again, like, you can just like do one more thing. Like you can do one more day. And like, if you die tonight, then like, what does it matter if you quit today? And you might as well like give it a last push and then go to sleep. This is actually like sleep well, exercise, eat good food. This helps immensely with the mental pain of doing something when it feels tough. If you fuck up those things, then it will like
they're the base units of getting anything done.
Yes, will crumble down. And then another thing, like I've made, like I said earlier, a lot of mistakes. To me, like, there is a lot of people that are like, you always have a chance. You always have people to turn it. Like, you can send me an email, I will answer that email. Like, if you feel like there is no like opinions left, that I just have to quit now. Like, I've done fucking everything. You can always send me an email. I'm super lucky to have people in my life I can give a call. Like, fuck, like this isn't going anywhere. And then usually, if you have really been honest with those people about how important that is to you, then they'll ask like, okay, do you actually, like you told me last time, that this is what you want to spend your whole life working on? Are you ready to quit today? And you're like, fuck yeah, I guess I have to like go and do it. So surrounding yourself with people and saying it out loud that you will do these things, and then you're kind of like forced to do it. But if it was what you wanted to do anyway, so then like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, also something that I want to add is this like point of like, when you realize that you can do anything and you are capable, you have the potential to do something, you kind of like owe it to the universe and to humanity. Like the more we met successful people who have the ability to actually change how things are going, and we know that there's a lot of problems, serious problems. It's looking, either it's gonna be an extremely nice future, abundance and all these things, or it's all gonna just go to shit, right? And seeing how many successful people there are who are just not actually doing anything, at least to me, it gives this feeling like, okay, now I have realized that I can do anything. I have this responsibility for humanity. I feel like I owe it to make it happen when no one else is like, actually feels like no one else is doing anything.
When we were talking about manifestation before the podcast, I think that was a thing that I've been thinking about, as well as I think that point you make around telling other people you're going to do stuff. It's the best forcing function.
Yes.
Because
It
your
creates
own
the pressure,
internally,
yeah.
it creates that pressure. And even just lying like gently to the people around you, like saying you're 20% ahead of where you are at any given point, forces you to catch up with that by the time that you get there. Tell us about bureaucracy, because there's another question that I think comes off the back of that really nicely.
To create innovation, the things that we want to do, we do need to push through a lot of walls, especially being in this place called Europe. It is one of the biggest problems. Like, I am extremely frustrated by the fact that we want to do things that actually increase, like, especially in Finland, like we have this welfare society. Like, we want to keep it going, and we want to do things to make it happen. Like, you need money in the end, you need capital to pay for things, for free healthcare and education, etc. And then we're trying to do everything we can, like sacrificing our personal lives to just create value. And then people are just putting regulation on this and that and just saying, no, you can't do that and you can't do that. It is extremely frustrating, but that's where you need people like us who just don't really care that much, and we just go through those walls. We make some enemies sometimes. In the end, it is still about, you need to be good at negotiation and sales, but at the same time, maybe you'll have a better answer, or like how to actually then
It's about sales. At the end of the day, everything's about sales.
And maybe there's a really nice way to relate this. I believe you spent a bit of time in a certain Swiss resort recently, and definitely broke through a couple of walls of expectation, process, cultural norms. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
The concrete story in this case is we knew we wanted to get this building, and then, yes, it doesn't matter. So the building is owned by a publicly traded Finnish like a real estate company there. I think the value of their investment is like 8 billion, and this is like public information. The value of this building is like not even a percentage of that. So it doesn't like really move the needle for them, like helping us out with this one. And why would they care? And then the timeline we are working with is like, oh yeah, we would be interested in, like, first it was just like, hey, this looks cool, can we see it? And then like, oh, if we want to make this happen now, we were having some problems with the previous building, and then like, okay, if we want to make this happen now, we would need to be done in 2 months. And like, can we make it happen? And then it's really like, how much are you willing to put effort into being fucking creative and coming up with ways of which could influence this decision? And what we are now, like one of the funny stories that related to this didn't actually help us in getting the building, but you have to just try everything because some of them land and some of them don't. I was asked to come to Davos to the World Economic Forum, and then I was a friend mentioned about an event where the Finnish president would be, and I was like, no, okay, this is perfect. We'll get the Finnish president to sign a paper saying that, like, hey, you should give these young guys this building because this is a fucking amazing idea and important for Finland. And then I go to this event, and then the president's security guards come there first, and I go explain to them in great detail, like, why this really matters and why this is so important. It takes me a good, like, 5-7 minutes, and then they're like, yes, sounds super interesting. But we don't really see why this would matter for the president for this week's agenda. Like, send an email to the reception of the president or something like this. Then I'm like, yep, okay, makes sense. Like they are, the Finnish president Alexander Stubb, he was like part of the negotiations for the Ukraine war and dealing with all of these things. I'm like, yeah, no, okay, probably like not the most important thing on his list, at least in their minds. In the future, he will look back at it and he'll be like, yes, it was actually important. And this is what I believe. But then he goes on the stage and talks, and then it ends, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I cannot go, and this comes to the creating this environment for yourself where you really put yourself out there. Like, I fucking can't come back home and tell that I talked to the security and gave up because they said it wasn't a good idea. So then as Stubb is walking past me, I'm like, hey, sorry, can I have a minute of your time? And then he's like, yes, you can talk to me while I'm changing my shoes or something. And then I continued walking with him to the back room. And then the same security guys have told me that you cannot talk with the guy. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, has this been agreed before? Then I'm like, no, but the president said that it's fine. And then I just start talking with him. And then the guard is like, what the, holding me from my jacket and really giving me a look that he'll fucking kill me. And then I just delivered it, told the president. Then he's the head of communication, gave her number to me, sent her a message, and then that went to their Finnish team. And then they, as I told, it didn't end up helping. They said hey, president can't sign these kind of things, but sounds super interesting and keep us updated on how it goes. And then the security guard, after that, are like, what the fuck, this is not okay. And I'm afraid if I meet them sometime on the street, that they'll actually do. But yeah. That's the story. That's the story.
And maybe that's a good connection with Finland and why building in Finland besides you guys being Finnish. Do you guys think when you look into the kind of size of the outcomes of what Finnish entrepreneurs have built when you compare to the size of the country, do you think being in Finland is a feature or a bug? And do you think freight would be possible if not in Finland?
I think so. We can do it anywhere in the world. I do believe that. One thing is when thinking about ambition, I think when European founders are thinking, I need to, do a Delaware, I need to build a company in the United States, sell for the States. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but that doesn't sound that ambitious to me. Ambitious would be thinking about how to sell something to humanity, do actually a global company. And in that case, I think it doesn't really matter where you are. Of course, you need to be strategic about some things. It's I believe we can do it anywhere in the world. That's number one. Then if you think about Finland, obviously we've been to a lot of, we've been to Silicon Valley multiple times. I think something that I don't like there is just quality of living standards. Seeing a lot of homeless people here and there, and then you go to a fancy VC office, you come out, and then you just see a lot of homeless people on the next street. And then when you think about Finland, it's perfect for deep focus. The nature is amazing. People are nice. There's a lot of deep tech innovation. If you think about Finnish innovation, there's one of the hottest companies in the 90s. Nokia was a Finnish company. I think there's something really great about Nokia, which is that it was started in a garage in a pretty small town in Finland by some technical people, tinkering with radios, and they just go out there and build one of the biggest companies in the world.
And literally 2 hours that way in the middle of forest, they're nothing.
Yeah, so it's Nokia already showed that it is completely possible, and then it's just a mindset thing. I do understand Europeans going to SF and starting Delawares. I think it's still a problem of EU has to figure out their shit, and yeah, I do agree with that it's not the founders' fault that they go to the States, but it is still this mindset question of well, do you actually want to change things around? We could have went there 1 year ago, but we actually want to change what the future looks like. I want my children to live in Europe, And for that to happen, if all the ambitious people just leave, then like,
this is one of the things I really bang my drum about, that fundamentally for me, this comes down to selfishness. And it's saying I value my own desire to accumulate wealth, status, power over my desire to do something for the place or alongside the place in which I operate. Because as you say, you can build Spotify in Europe, you can build Revolut in Europe, you can build Nokia in Europe, you can do it. Yeah, there are structural disadvantages, let's not pretend. But one of the things that frustrates me about very ambitious young Europeans going to the US is what you're essentially saying is I'm choosing my own outcome over a collective outcome, right? And people always say, oh, we'll come back, we'll bring it back. I struggle with it a little bit. One of the things I wanted to ask around that is, what do you use US examples of excellence a lot, which I think is right. And you talk about the Valley, and obviously the original idea for Freight came from a trip to SF, right? What do you want to take from SF and what do you not want to take in terms of how you build because I know Freight is not a European product, but it's a product that exists in Europe, and most of or I imagine more than 50% of the people that engage with the product are European. So it's European, like Spotify is European, but it still is in Europe. So what do you want to take from the US? What do you want to actually keep as uniquely European?
I can start like what I remember going to SF the first time. There's also like obviously a lot of noise, but you do have people that are simply like unapologetically working on the things that they believe in and not doing anything else. And I do think this is like the way to live life. Just like do whatever the fuck you want. This is what I really want for people. Like figure out what it is for you that you want out of this life. It's quite short. And then like really do that. And don't care that much about any other things. And then I can say for Europe, I do love maybe it's then like those things that you mentioned, maybe it's some others, but it's like the high integrity, that you are ready to stand up to some morals. Maybe it's that maybe I do believe in the European values more, and I do think those values will end up guiding how do you like decide even your own morals. I'm a person, like I don't really take the morals of the state that serious. Like if there is a law in Finland that I don't agree with, then I don't really have any moral struggle going against it. But then the values you grow up with and the values the society at larger has do end up shaping what the people do. And I do want to see in future like us. I think the world will just be a better place if we don't just have a bipolar like China against US, and that's it.
And I think for that to happen, Europe have a say in the future. My answer is super simple. Like we need to Americanize Europeans when it comes to sales and ambition, and then just keep the values and the culture. Like then we'll do really well in the long term.
And I do love. I think it's. I mean, I'm a Brazilian guy. I used to be a street vendor in Rio. Then I went to the US, played American football. So I know very well the ambition and the way of Americans and Latinos of overselling, which is very, very valuable. But at the same time, I love the straightforwardness of Europeans and the kind of like true. It's the humility of like saying things, and you don't need to read around it. I think it makes business quite good as well. But at the same time, we could sell more, and we could be.
You can just sell more and just deliver. It's it's not impossible.
Be more ambitious,
But definitely, that's probably the biggest problem in Europe is just the lack of ambition and agency when it comes to just like believing in yourself and understanding that you can do things.
Someone should start a podcast about ambition.
Gentlemen, we've taken more than enough of your time. Quick fire questions to finish. We'll go one each. Nantte, sauna temperature, what's the minimum acceptable?
80 degrees.
Overrated idea in tech at the moment.
AI powered. Fuck.
That's not a business.
Just AI.
PCB design.
PCB design, interesting. Nantte, most underrated idea in tech at the moment.
Nanotechnology.
Craziest thing you've seen someone try and do inside of Freight that can include yourselves?
Rocket fuel. Let's say that.
Best idea you want to see built that no one's tackling yet?
I think there is so many people doing so many fucking cool things. It's a super hard one that no one is tackling. Has to be something in biology.
If you could poach one person from any company on Earth to either join the cohort or the team, who would it be?
Elon.
This building wouldn't be big enough for him. Nantte, who's not on your cap table, who should be?
Demis.
Yes.
He's a good man. Will Europe produce a trillion-dollar company in the next decade?
Yes.
And Ernesti, what would you be doing if freight didn't exist?
Asteroid mining.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, a pleasure.
Thanks
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.